stories as H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds and Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea have challenged mankind. So today, man is successfully probing deep into the mysteries of the universe. Can he penetrate the greatest mystery of all, time itself? It took the creative magic of George Pal and the fabulous production know-how of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer to catapult you through time into a world that is yet to be.
Why is it that we usually ignore the fourth dimension? You see, we can move in the other three. As the doctor said, up, down, forwards, backwards, sideways. But when it comes to time, we are prisoners.
Inventor Rod Taylor's breakthrough into the realm of the fourth dimension is defied by his friend Alan Young.
If that machine can do what you say it can, destroy it, George, before it destroys you.
Every moment is a year, hurtling through the atomic wars of the future on an incredible excursion into the unknown. What are the people like? Ah, the shape of things to come. It's lovely Yvette Mimieux. And what happens when boy meets girl thousands of years hence?
How do they wear their hair?
Who?
The women of your time.
Up like that?
Show me.
Is this the human race of the future? Or is this the Morlocks, fiendish creatures who live in a weird underground world? And the Eloi, the tranquil sunshine people, who the Morlocks dominate and maintain like cattle, luring them below with the hypnotic wail of the sirens, to feed upon them in cannibalistic horror.
Hello. Hey up. It's Steve from that old Yorkshire geek. Hang on, I've got me wrong background on from last night. Well, whatever. Happy New Year. Hang on, I'll show you it. Hang on, where are we? Where are we? There we go. Happy New Year from that old Yorkshire geek. Hey, right, there we go. Because it's January the 1st, so it's a new year. It's 2024 at last. Hopefully it'll be a bit better than last year, but we will see. Right. As you saw there, that was the trailer for The Time Machine, which is this week's Magnificent Mondays pick, starring Rod Taylor, Yvette Mimieux. He pronounced it Mimieux, didn't he? But I've always pronounced it Mimieux. I don't know. Who were underage when she started filming. She was 17 when she was cast, and she turned 18 during filming. That's by the by. Who else is in it? Hang on, where are we? Rod Taylor, Yvette Mimieux, Alan Young, who you may know as the voice of Scrooge McDuck, Whit Bissell, and many, many more. Well, a few more. Directed by George Pal, the late great George Pal, who brought us films. He directed, but also produced. He produced more films than he directed. Like War of the Worlds and Destination Moon and stuff like that. And it's got an amazing score, musical score by Russell Garcia. It's one of the most lovely themes you can imagine. It's amazing. Right, so before we start, don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell if you're subscribed already. Well, let me get rid of that. I'm thinking on. There we go. Where are we? We're live on YouTube. Yes, we are. We're live on Rumble and we're live on X. Let's see how we go with X. See if we start getting any views. If we don't, I'll go back to Twitch and get no views on that. Anyway, right. So let's get on with the film, shall we? Obviously, I can't just play the film because I'll get into trouble. So we'll go through it in a series of stills and I'll talk about it and all that jazz. Just get sorted. So I'll make myself titchy tiny, and off we go. There we go. Right. So we begin. By the way, the budget for this film was like a tiny budget. 1960 it came out. It does have a 50s feel to it. So technically, it's a 50s film that were made in the 50s, I suppose. But it came out in 1960, and its budget was about $800,000. I've heard some say 750. I've heard say just over 800. So we'll say $800,000, which is nothing. Even then, I mean, what comparable things came out in 1960? Let's check. I should have checked this beforehand, shouldn't I? But let's have a look. Like Spartacus, I think that came out in 1960, didn't it? The film. Yes, it did. Spartacus movie. I need to find, don't I? Not just Spartacus, the man. Spartacus movie. So what was the budget for that? Let's have a look. If it tells us, we will see. The budget for Spartacus, $12 million in 1960. I know it was a big historical epic by Stanley Kubrick, but $12 million back then. And then we had other ones that came after. I think Cleopatra came out afterwards, didn't it? Which, well, for a long time. Yes, 1963, as I thought. For a long time, was the most expensive film ever made. It might still be adjusted for inflation, I don't know, but at the time it had a budget of $31.1 million. That's back in the early 60s. So it could still be the most expensive, adjusted for inflation. I doubt it. But anyway. Right, anyway, so let's get on with this film, shall we? Off we go. Is it going to play? Let's just make sure. Is it coming on? Yes, it is. There's old Leo. By the way, I've got it here. Look, the Blu-ray, which I watched today. Not many special features on. The only special features are the trailer and a making of, which is kind of sweet. It's not really a making of. It's like a retrospective on the time machine. And it's kind of nice, but it doesn't really tell you a lot about the making of the film. It tells you a lot about the time machine itself and about what happened to it after the film, but not a huge amount about the film itself. And Sci-Fi Quest is here. Evening, pal. It says pal. Sci-Fi Quest says pal as though he's going to punch me in the face after this said it, doesn't it? Maybe he's just talking to the director of the film and producer, George Powell. Anyway, right, so let's continue. So we begin with lots of clocks. Kind of reminds me of Back to the Future, except there's no Marty McFly that comes in. But we get lots of clocks and ticking because it's all about time. And then it goes, H.G. Wells, A Time Machine. And then we have the theme. So actually, I'm going to play a little bit of the theme. Hope we don't get into trouble, but because it is a gorgeous theme. You ready? Here we go. In a minute. I'll go forward a bit. Or a bit more. There we go. A very lovely theme. Very, very nice. Very orchestral. But anyway. Obviously based on the novel by H.G. Wells. As it's a time travel movie, I kind of wish they made Biggles too. I've never seen Biggles. Never seen it. Never got round to watching it. Is that a time travel film? I don't know. I've never seen it. I've heard of it, obviously, but never seen it. There we go, 1960. All right, yes, so we're going to say MGM and all that, but for some reason on on the Blu-ray when it comes on, it's got the Warner's logo. So is the distribution rights moved over to Warner Brothers for some reason? I've no idea. Anyway. Right, so there's all the credits. So we begin. It's at the beginning it's 1900. It's, I don't know, the 7th of January or whatever, 1900. This is Philby, played by Alan Young, who, as I said, his voice you may recognise, is the standard American Scot. Whereas James Doohan was the standard Canadian Scot. Alan Young is the standard. I don't know, actually. Where's he from? I'm going to have to check that now, actually. I think he's American, but he might have been born in Oh, he's British. He's British. I didn't know that. Sorry. But he became famous for appearing, doing his Scottish accents and stuff. But anyway, so here he is coming from his store, Philby's department store. It's a bit small, isn't it, to be a department store? But where are all his departments? Maybe it's long. Maybe it goes back a long way. But anyway, it does become a department store later. So anyway, so he nearly gets run over by somebody on a bicycle, saying, "Good Lord, sir." Right, here we go. We get his first bit of special effects, I suppose. It's a composite shot. This on the right-hand side, where the road is and the buildings, that's on one lot at MGM. On the left-hand side, where George's house is, that's on another lot at MGM. And then the background, I think, is a matte painting. So cool. Right, so he comes in, is greeted by, where is she? There she is. Mrs. Watchit? Is that her name? I've forgotten. I've seen this film 8 billion times. Why am I blanking? Because I always do. Mrs. Watchit, yes. Very Dickensian name, isn't it? But so here he is. How many coats has he got on? Right, let's go back. Right, go back. Right, so he's got his overcoat on. He's got his scarf on, his Doctor Who scarf. There's one coat there, and then another coat. I mean, that coat is just, it was like 2 coats. And then he's got a coat and another coat, or is it a big cardigan, and then his waistcoat, and then he's going, he's cold. Bloody hell, man. Anyway. So he sits down and greeted by George's other friends, who are Dr. Philip Hillier, who I believe this is, played by Sebastian. Is it Cabot or Cabot? I don't know how to pronounce it. But he's a British actor. Hang on, where are we? There he is. And all his friends are not very nice, really, to be honest. Apart from Philby, who is like George's best friend, because he lives just over the road from him. We're going to see the others. There we go. There's the other ones. This is Whit Bissell as Walter Kemp, the token American. And this fella over here is Tom Helmore as Anthony Bridewell, who seems a decent chap, but he likes a drink. But anyway, the waiting. George is late. Their friend George is late, with the Rod Taylor character. But then Mrs. Watchit comes in with a note telling him that they're invited to dinner, and they've got to start. If he's late, they have to start without him. So that's what they're going to do. There we go. Well, are we not invited for dinner? It's all very talk like that, because it's the Victorian era, and it's just not on. It's just dashed bad show, old boy. That sort of thing. But anyway, apparently he's been gone for several days. But anyway, so they're going to go and have the dinner. So in they go. And then she's getting ready as Mrs. Watchit serving dinner. I don't know what they're having. It looks a bit... it's probably how I'd cook it, to be honest. It's a bit well done, innit? But it's Britain, innit? One thing I like about George, bestseller in England. It actually says in the south of England. So I'm guessing it's supposed to be in London. But then he appears at the door, dun, and he's all covered in dirt and scratches, and he's exhausted, and stuff's been going on. And so, by George O'Bean, what's going on? By the way, look at the time; it's 8:05. And I think by the time we get to the end of the film, he's going to tell his story now. And I think the length of the film, I think, is reflected in the time when we get to the end of the film. I think. Watch me be wrong. Right, so he sits down. They give him a drink, and I forgot his name already. He has a drink anyway. So he tells them all about what he's going to do. And he says, remember when we last met a week ago? It was the last year of of the 19th century. Technically it wasn't, but never mind, we'll not get into that. Alan Young tells me you have all the time in the world. That's how he does his Scottish accent, doesn't he? And he goes, yes, I have all the time in the world. By the way, Rod Taylor, you may know him from The Birds and some other stuff. Blanking. But even The Birds, and we're in this. And Australian actor, but he does a good British accent, which a lot of Australians do, because it's nearly a British accent, isn't it? It's Australian. Right, so here we go. We're a week earlier now. The week before, it's the last day of 1899, and George is going to show them his new invention that he's done. Talking about time, and they all think he's on about a clock that oh, it's not just what the Navy needs, a regular timepiece for the army. It's just the army needs regular timepiece. It's for the artillery, and all that. Apparently the Boer War is raging, so he's on about that. Is this fella? There you go. Army needs one for the artillery, and then Alan Young says, Philby, sorry, says, I don't think George is talking about some kind of timepiece. Because it's all Miss Jim Brodie, eh? But so referring to the fourth dimension. And him there, Hilliard, I think it's Hilliard, isn't it? He says, well, the fourth dimension doesn't exist. It's just theoretical. Blah, blah, blah. He must be some sort of scientist. And so Philby says, could you explain the first three dimensions? There you go. So Hilliard does that. He says, we've got 3 dimensions, up and down, backwards and forwards, left and right. Basically, that's the 3 dimensions. And he says, yes, but the fourth dimension is time. So that's what he's on about. I mean, have they proved that there's something like 11 dimensions? I don't know how they work. I'm not a theoretical physicist, so don't ask me how the other dimensions work. But apparently there's 11 dimensions altogether, isn't there? But it's beyond me. Anyway, so he's going to show him what he's made. He's basically it says, he wants to move through time. He says, we're trapped, we're a linear existence. We can't do anything about time. We can't go backwards or anything or forwards. And this is what he's interested in. It doesn't explain how he does it, but he's just made the time machine. So he's going to demonstrate with his little machine that he's made. Here it is, and apparently, I don't know if this is the one, the made one for the film, a little model of the full size time machine, and it was amazing. And apparently, a really tiny one was made as well, just so that they could. I don't know, just so that the fella that made it showed that he could make one really, really tiny, but I don't think it was ever used. But I think this one, not this one, but one of them that they made, one of the small ones, were destroyed in a fire because George Pal's house burnt down, along with several other people's. There were must have been a big forest fire or something. And it was lost, so they must have made another one. So here it is anyway, in this nice Victorian, ornate box. Because, it's Victorian times, they didn't do anything by halves. Everything had to look all, I don't know, what's the word? Victorian, I suppose. So here is showing it. There you go. The iconic design. So he borrows a cigar off Hilliard to represent a man in the chair. So he's saying this is a time machine. And he's saying when you travel through time, you don't travel through space. Technically, I suppose you do, but never mind. You must take that into account. So it must be traveling through space because the Earth moves through space. The solar system's moving through space. The galaxy's moving through space at, really high speeds. But don't overthink it. So, right, yeah, the larger model can carry a person, and he's going to borrow a cigar and show him, can he go into the future or the past? Can he change his destiny? Can he change the future? And he says, oh, no, it's all there, as Hilliard said. The future's already written and all that. So he's going to demonstrate. This is a working model. As I said, it doesn't explain how it works. Maybe it does in the book. I don't know. I've not read the book. But there you go. He uses a cigar to represent the passenger. So off it goes. He presses the button, and then lights start shaking and we hear the noise and all that stuff. And he says, if it succeeds, I'll lose my model forever. Well, maybe forever, I don't know. Maybe he'll catch up with it at some point. But so he sets it off going, uses one of the other person's fingers to show that he's not up to any subterfuge, and off it goes. There it goes. A nice bit of stop motion. A lot of stop motion photography in this film. By various people, but one of the people was the famous Jim Danforth, who's like, I suppose, second only to Ray Harryhausen for stop motion effects. But he did some of the effects in this film. Surprisingly, Ray Harryhausen didn't do any because he's associated with George Pal, because in his younger days he did George Pal's puppet tunes, didn't he? The fox and the tortoise and the hare and all stuff like that, and Mother Goose and all those. Anyway, so as it just it's going now. So that was him looking round, all the lights is shaking and stuff, and then it makes its funny noise, and then disappears. Is it going to go? There it goes. And off it goes, heading into the future. Like that. That's the noise it makes. So off it's gone. He says, well, where's it gone? He says, it's still there, but it's just in another time. It's actually hurtling into the future non-stop because there's nobody in it to stop it. So, but maybe it'll run out of power. Maybe he'd caught up with it one day, but I don't know. Maybe it's reached the end of time by now. But they don't believe him. They think it's just a trick, basically. And he's saying, they're explaining, well, why can't I see it? And he's saying, well, because it's not in the time allotted for today, for now. It's in another time. He says, well, that's ridiculous. And he says, well, no, time changes space. And he says, this house may not be in 100 years. In a million years, it's maybe at the bottom of the ocean or in a mountain or whatever. But anyway, so there you go. That's what he's saying it there. Time changes space. There you go. But they don't really believe him. I think Philby does because he's a nice fella. But the others don't really believe him. They think it's just some sort of trick. So off they go. So he's a bit dejected. Sorry. Princess. I thought it got cold. She's gone in the kitchen. Opening the doors. Unbelievable. But they go off kind of in a huff, and he says, come back for dinner next week. No, that's later, isn't it? So they all go off in a huff. One of them saying, the Boer War's still going on. They need inventors. So anyway, they bugger off. And going off to celebrate the coming of the new year. They keep saying it's coming of the new century. But it's not, is it? Because technically the next century doesn't begin until the 01, does it? Because there were no year zero. It went from 1 BC to 1 AD, or 1, BCE to 1 CE, however you want to say it. There's no year zero. So the next century actually begins in 1901, the 20th century began. But anyway, so off they go to celebrate the new year with horse and carriage and all that. Note he's got a sundial there, which we'll see again later. So he goes back in. We note that Philby's not left. He's still sitting there. He's looking at the paper. War. It's all about war. He's sick of it. But, he's sick of man killing man. But later on in the film, he kind of introduces, conflict to peace-loving people. But we'll get to that. So he doesn't realise Philby's still sitting there. So it's a good job he didn't start, drop his pants and start doing stuff, does he? But anyway. But Philby's trying to talk him round and say, there's a lot of sense in what they say. They're down to earth and practical. And so he says, well, come on, Philby, come to dinner next week, bring the others and, and all that. And all right, Philby says Philby asks him, where would you go? And says, to the past, to the Romans, or be a pharaoh or whatever. And George says, I'd prefer to go to the future. But he says, you'll not go out tonight, will you, George? He says, I promise I won't leave the house, which is, a bit of a fib. But technically he doesn't. But So anyway, so I think he tells him, you know, if he's built a life-size version, he should destroy it. But anyway, so off Philby goes. What was that? Is it raining? Must be. So Philby leaves to be with his family. We learn he's got a young baby that's just been born called Jamie. And yes, we all need a good sundial as well as a harpoon. So Philby buggers off. So he writes a note. He writes his instructions for Mrs. Watchit. Remember, she gave him a note at the beginning. She gave Philby a note. So he's writing that now. January the 5th is dinner. There we go. 1900. It's technically still the 19th century, but never mind. Mrs. Watchit doesn't need her anymore. So it's obviously he's quite well off, isn't he? So his inventions must have raked in some money for him. But then he goes into his workshop, and there we see the full-size machine. Dun-dun-dun. So he thinks, right, I'm going now, because he's got his smoking jacket on. He's ready for action. Nobody should time travel without a good smoking jacket. But anyway, so he lights a candle for some reason, just so we can show it. And he gets his. It's powered by a crystal. I don't know if it is in the book, but in this, it's powered by a crystal. But it doesn't say what sort of crystal or what. I don't know, but as I said, it's not explained how it works. It just works. So the crystal is in this lever that he uses, so that powers it as well. Don't ask me how, I don't know. It makes this spin. George Pal initially wanted it to spin one way to go into the future and the other way to go into the past. Pardon me. But I don't think they could figure it out in time, you know, for filming and stuff. It'd be too complicated for the budget that they had. So I think it just spins one way, I think. I could be wrong. So off he goes. So he's going to sit in his chair and he moves it. There we go. There we see the. By the way, it says they're manufactured by H.G. Wells, because this is Herbert George Wells. And Windgrace is here. Sorry, I'm late. I input the coordinates incorrectly on my time machine. He's travel. Have he come from the future or the past? Windgrace. Don't know. But anyways, H.G. Wells himself has built the time machine, which I bet he did. I bet he did actually build a time machine, and I bet he did fight Dracula. That was bloody Bram Stoker, wasn't it? And I bet he did meet an invisible man, and he did. The War of the Worlds really happened. It's all true what H.G. Wells wrote. So there we go. There we see the date, and 1899. There's none of this Back to the Future complications. You know, this is where you are, this is where you were, this is where you're going to. All that. We don't need all that silliness. We don't need a flux capacitor neither. But anyway, so he's going to go just a few minutes into the future. By the way, all these little knobs that are on the disc that spins, there's 365 of them. George Pal were very clear on that for some reason, but obviously it's, you know, because it seems 65 days in a year. Maybe it's like dimples on a golf ball. It makes it go through time smoother. So off he goes. There we go. At first, I push the lever forward very slightly. As a crystal power source, he should come to our time. He'd be rich in no time. Think about electric cars. Yep. So I don't know where the power comes from, the crystal. I don't know. maybe he's thinking of like quartz or something. But, you know, is quartz a power, or is it just a regulator for you know, I don't know. I was just hanging out in 50 million AD. You got a bit distracted. Yes. Hope no Morlocks got you. I know there'll be none left in 50 million AD, will there? Anyway. Right, so it goes forward just a few minutes and doesn't realise, you know, nothing's changed. He said the room around him kind of faded away for a minute and then he stops. And then he looks at the candle, which he just lit, and then we saw it earlier on. It's like about half the size it was, and the time's changed. Yeah, it's just a few minutes after 8 now, so it's gone down a bit. So he thinks, right, so, okay, he's going to go forward a bit more and a little bit faster. Then we get a nice bit of stop motion. There we go. It's going hours now. His candle's gone. There's a bit coming up that I didn't know until I watched this documentary. But we'll see it in a bit. So anyway, so he's heading forward, not super fast, just fast enough for time lapse photography to happen of flowers opening. It's the last day of December. There's not going to be any flowers, is there? Never mind. We're having to think about it. They even point it out at the end of the film. Spoilers for the end of the film is proof that he's been to another time. Is he's got a flower that Weena gives him. And Alan Young says, well, that flower would never have bloomed at this time of year. These ones are, aren't they? For the purposes of displaying time travel. Anyway. Has he been to the year 3000? He goes way past 3000, doesn't he? Is that a song reference? It could be. I don't know. And his great-great-granddaughter is pretty fine. Rod Taylor's or H.G. Wells? I don't know. Or is that another song reference? I don't know. Anyway, so off he goes. There sees sundial. And the flowers closing at night. And then Mrs. Watchit going to the dress shop, but never buying anything for herself. She must just go in to have a look. And so he thinks, right, so it's going to go forward even faster now, and it's intoxicating. Oh, it's amazing. So he goes, as he practiced, I say, he got more experienced, and then so he's now in the middle of this travel 6 months now. So he's going forward again, and then he starts watching the dummy in the clothes shop across the road as they're undressing it. Hang on, let's see. It shows us with cool, peculiar music playing. There we go. Showing. See, they even cover up the Victorian era. It's technically still the Victorian era because she didn't die till 1901, did she? Got to cover up the naked mannequin. Anyway, so she becomes his gauge of how fashions are changing over the times. So there were 13 years have passed and all that. Have I missed a bit? I think I've missed a bit. It might be coming up. There's a bit with some apples. If we see it, I hope I haven't missed it. But there we go. It stops in the year 1917. Everything's all cobwebby now. It looks just like my house, basically. It does. And basically his house is deserted and it's all boarded up. Some stock footage of rats or mice or whatever they are. So it goes out. There we go. His house is boarded up. His garden's in a bit of disarray. And apparently he went missing. He went missing, did George? At the turn of the century, 17 years earlier. But he's going to meet up there. We see his horseless carriages and all that. We see Philby's department store still there, and he meets who we think is Philby. We see Alan Young again, but this is Jamie, who I suppose is he must only be young because it's referred to as the baby at the beginning of the film in 1899. So he must only be about 18 and 19 there. But there were hard times on there, I suppose. But we see he's a soldier. He's getting ready to go off to the front. And he thinks it's Philby, his friend David Philby. But we learn it's not him, it's Jamie. And David died in the war, died last year in the war in 1916. He was killed. And in the documentary that's on the Blu-ray and on the DVD as well, there's a nice little scene where Alan Young and Rod Taylor come back and they've got the time machine there, and he reappears in his basement, recreate his basement for the documentary. and he reappears, and they play the same characters, and George tries to convince Philby to come with him, to jump a couple of years into the future so he can avoid his own death, basically. And it's a nice, sweet scene, and but you know, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't want to tempt fate, and so George goes back to Wien and all that at the end. It's a nice little scene. I thought that was a cool little thing in the documentary. Was that a Chinaman there? What's he doing there? Anyway, so here we go. So, were you a friend of father's? Yes, I was. But there you go. Killed in the war a year ago. Well, they're all sorry. And this is where we learned that the inventor chap over the road disappeared, and Philby that must have been the executor of his estate or something like that, and he wouldn't let him sell the house, so he just that's why it's still there, because Philby felt that George would come back one day, which of course he does. So there we go. So off he goes to the war, but we know he survives because we meet him again later in 1966. So anyway, so he goes back, pulls the boards off the window so he can watch his mannequin getting changed, and off he goes again into the future. So he's watching her look changing. They're taking the fella out because he's going so fast we can't see the fella changing him now. There we go. 1940 now he stops. The war's raging. It's the Blitz, isn't it? That's going on. And he's saying, "Oh, it's the." He thinks it's the same war, but then for some reason he decides it's another war. I don't know how he knows that, but first he thinks it's the same war. But then, no, this is a new war fought with flying machines. Got to see planes flying over and stuff. And there you go. So he decides to push on. So he goes even further into the future. We see the dummy. There we go. She's still changing. Fashion is advancing. But then we move into the future of the film. Because remember, this film came out in 1960. So now we're going to end up in 1966. By the way, he's been embarrassed by what the young, not young, the young mannequin is wearing. Bye-bye. By the way, Cypherquest says, Biggles is a fun film. A World War I pilot travels to 1980s London and takes a helicopter back to destroy a German superweapon using a loudspeaker. Pardon me. So it's like Star Trek Beyond then. Pardon me. Because they destroy an alien fleet of drones using a loudspeaker, though. But I'll have to dig that out. I've never seen it. I've heard of it, obviously, because I remember it coming out in the 80s or something, didn't it? It came out in the 80s. And I remember seeing posters and stuff for it, and I remember seeing it in the video stores and all that to rent, and I never bothered with it. I didn't know it was a time travel film. I thought it was just like a comic book adventure, along the lines of like Dick Tracy or another film I've never seen, or what's the other one? Dick Barton, Special Agent, them sort. I thought it was one of those sort of stories. Anyway, so off he goes. Right, he ends up at 1966. So there we go. So he stops, and then is in his but his house has disappeared. By the way, at this point, there's like a big flash, and his house has disappeared. So obviously, a bomb. It's been bombed, hasn't it, in the Second World War? So he drops back to normal time. He's in 1966, and his house has become a park. Still got the sundial there. There's a little plinth there with a plaque on it. You'll probably be humming the theme for a while after watching it. I don't. Well, we'll see. I'll have to look it up. I wonder if it's on Amazon. No, just let me type it into Google, because if I don't, I'll forget. Biggles. Oh, because I forgot to spell, wouldn't it? 1986 film. There we go. Right. It's got Peter Cushing in it. Cool. Right. Okay. Oh. Music composed by Stanislas Sirovic, who I've never heard of, and John Deacon. Is that the John Deacon from Queen? So I bet it's funky, because it was a funky member of Queen, wasn't it? Another One Bites the Dust, that was a John Deacon song. Anyway, so he's in a park now. We will learn that it's dedicated to George by Philby. But there's a siren going off, and siren's going off, so some sort of attack's going to happen. By the way, we see these officers in white hats, and you notice the uniforms they're wearing are the uniforms from Forbidden Planet, from the the United Planets cruiser C-57D, MGM production. You see, we see another bit of Forbidden Planet props later on. Anyway, so they're all running for their lives to the underground, the air raid shelter. And as you can see, we saw some, stuff being built. So Philby's department store has become a big department store now, and there's now all skyscrapers in the background and all that. There was a bit, I don't know if I've missed it. I might have missed it. There are a bit of some apples growing. I'll just tell you about it, because I might have missed it. I might have skipped over it. It's the stupid skip function. Hang on. So they're in a shared universe. Who are in a shared universe? I don't know. I'm lost now. Oh, you mean Forbidden Planet and this? Yes, they are in my head canon. Right. So what we're saying? They're all heading for the shelters, and I'm going to tell you about the bit that I might have skipped over. It might come back. I don't know. You see some apples growing in a tree, and to look at it, you think, oh, it's just a bit more, what they call it, time-lapse photography, and it isn't. It's actually a painting. And what they did, they set up a static camera, and it just filmed. Well, it took a picture every so often of this fella painting these apples growing, and did it like that. And I also thought it was just a bit of, time-lapse photography, but it isn't. It's, time-lapse, a fella painting apples growing. Anyway, I think we've missed it, or it might be to come, but I think we've missed it. I'm going to see if I can find it. Just bear with me. I'll just get rid of that a minute. We'll see if I can get back to it. I forgot what time I was on that. Anyway, never mind. Bear with me. I'm clicking. You can hear me clicking. I'm trying to find that bit. I thought it was earlier on when we saw the time lapse of the flowers. So just let me. Oh, wow, we saw that snail. There's a snail. Right, so let me go back a bit further. Right, there's that bit. Sorry, I'm just watching it in real time. The bit where the candle goes down, there's the sun arcing across the sky. Come on, show the. We see this bit. Hang on, let's go back a bit. We see this bit, which is a bit of stop motion. I pressed the wrong button against an idiot. There we go. There we go. Little stop motion snail bombs round, little rubber snail with some flowers there. There we go. Open up. That's stop motion. They're fake flowers. That's they're real, obviously. Come on, where's these bloody apples? It's not a Mandela effect. It is in because it were in the making of. Right, the flowers are closing. I mean, because he's not really going fast, is he? But when he does the, so I'll go forward a bit. Right. I'm going to find it, and you'll be totally disappointed when I finally do find it. Oh dear, because he's still going quite slowly. Look, but it's obviously when he speeds up. There we go. He's going now. Look. Right. Anyway, so I'll take it off again, so I don't get a copyright strike. Anyway. Will Amazon remake the Forbidden Planet then, or will Warner Brothers block it? I don't know if it's an MGM film, wasn't it? But I don't know if Warner Brothers has rights. Like I said, this is an MGM film, but for some reason the Blu-ray is Warner Brothers Home Video, and I don't know why. But I wouldn't be surprised if they tried. Anyway, what am I doing? Trying to find these bloody apples. How do you like them apples? Oh dear. Right, okay, we're off. It's intoxicating, now. We did that bit earlier. Come on, show us. It's going faster now. I know you can't see it, but you just have to watch me cog going. I think it's coming up. Oh, maybe not. Oh, for crying out loud. Dear. Right, is he stopped again? No, has he? Oh, just a bit gurgling. Right, it's going again now. I'm going to find it. I don't care if it's bad TV. Oh dear. We've seen the fella changing the woman's dress. Come on, we're not interested in this. I want to see the bloody apples that aren't real apples, but I thought they were real for years. And I probably look at them now and think, yeah, they don't look real. Because I know now. Found it. Right. Whew, right, off we go. It's this bit here. This is a painting. Hang on. Could be a result of Amazon's purchase of MGM. I don't know if that was recently, wasn't it? This Blu-ray's been out for ages. I don't know, but maybe they just got distribution rights. I don't know in some territories. I don't know, but anyway, here we go. So this is a painting. It's not real. I always thought it was real. I thought it was a bit of not stop motion, time lapse footage. Stop doing that. There we go. But it's a painting of apples growing. Amazing. I always thought that were real. Right, so that's all I wanted to show you. Now we've got to go back to 1966. So hit the skip button furiously. Right. In the war, his house has gone. Right, 1966 is to head. The sirens are going off. For some reason, this building in the background here, these on top of the building, for some reason, I don't know why, but they kind of remind me of the Sphinx that we see later. I don't know why, but it just does. And for no reason, it just does. I'm just too much information. I don't know. But anyway. When was the last time you saw apples like those in stores in the UK? I don't know. They just look like normal apples to me. See all sorts of apples in my Asda. Golden Delicious, Granny Smiths. I like a nice what they call them now. Not russets, and not Gala or Gala, Royal Gala. What are the others? Braeburn. I like a nice, crisp, tangy Braeburn. They're my favourites at the moment. But anyway, that's by the by. Right. Are we going to see Woody Woodpecker? Or we missed it? There he is in his C-57D uniform, just running very camply, wasn't he? Come on into the shelter. I think we missed it. There's a little girl. She picks something up, and it's a Woody Woodpecker. It's never mind. Here we go. There we go. She's got it in her hand there. She picked it up. We see a Woody Woodpecker. That's the thing that George Powell likes to put in his films because he's a great friend with I can't remember who did it. The fellow who created Woody Woodpecker. You see one in War of the Worlds. I think you might see one in Destination Moon as well. But here is one in a Woody Woodpecker doll. I know it's hard to see. Oh, there you go. She goes to pick it up. We're going to see it again. There we go. Woody Woodpecker. I used to love Woody Woodpecker when I was a kid. It's the Woody Woodpecker show. Anyway, so they're all heading for the fallout shelter. Well, the air raid shelters. So it's all quiet, and there he sees the plaque that the park is dedicated by David Philby to his friend George. And then he meets young Philby. Here he is. This is Jamie Philby. Was it Walter Lance? Who did Woody Woodpecker? I don't know. It's like picking wild crab apples on my way to school. I have to be careful. There would be some extra protein. Yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of crab apples. I've been out and collected them as a kid, but not exactly nice. I've got a neighbour lives up the street there. They always have they've got an apple tree, and let's say every apple harvest time or whenever it is, got some lovely big apples on the tree, and nobody ever goes and picks them. Nobody ever goes and picks them. That I've noticed. It's a great waste. It's been there for years. Every year, loads of apples. Anyway, that's by the by. Right, so here it is. There's young Philby comes out, says, "Come on, young man, get to the shelter," and all that. With his quasi-futuristic suit on. Oh, by the way, where is it now? Is it here where we see it? There's a shop. Where are we? Where is it? We're going to see it here. It comes through a window. Where are we? No, it might have been earlier. There we go. There we go. It's coming up now. There we go. On the right hand side, you just see it's going to. Hopefully, it's going to come into view as he walks. There we go. Right, can you see that now? There we go. Latest tubeless TV with a flat screen there. George Pal was an actual time traveller. This is 1960. The latest tubeless TV, flat panel telly. Could be an Apple TV, that, couldn't it? When all said and done. Amazing. But anyway, that's by the by. Right, so, young Philby. So tells him to go get into the shelter. You know, the mushrooms will be sprouting. He points out, we see something come across the sky. It's an atomic satellite zooming in, or whatever he says. But then we learn that, I did meet you years ago over there in 1917. He says, but you haven't aged a day and all that. There we go. There we go. An atomic satellite homing in. There it is. Cool. Must be low for a satellite, but never mind. Unless it's a really big one. But there we go. And it's told to hide till they're all clear, which is a key phrase in the film. So he runs to the shelter, and all this time George is giving it, "I don't want to. I'm perfectly comfortable here." There's a bloody siren going off. Anyway, a world in perpetual war would probably develop that sort of tech faster. Yes, it probably would. Yes, it probably would. But anyway, so as we're watching, an atomic bomb goes off. Here we go. And Philby's department store is melted. But George is fine, look. He's obviously, atomic blasts can't hurt him, it seems, look. It just gets knocked about a bit. But, the buildings are getting falling apart. We get some cool model shots. Obviously model shots, but, whatever. It's cool. So he gets to his time machine. Oh, right. And then, oddly enough, a nearby volcano erupts. I don't know many volcanoes in London, but even the south of England, wherever he is. But a volcano erupts. It just says, angered by man's hostility or whatever, Mother Nature retaliates with hostility of her own. And all volcanoes erupt in the south of England. There you go. So we get all lava running down the streets now. So he's got to get to his time machine quick and get the shields up. The time shields. Competition and conflict always promotes advancement. Yes, it does. Unfortunately. They always said, don't they, the military is always 50 years ahead of what the general public have in terms of technology. That's what I've heard. Anyway. Right, so all lava's coming out of the ground. Here it is, heading towards him. Some nice effects like that. That's obviously it's a model, but looks nice, dirty lava, doesn't it? Like that. So he thinks he's going to get covered in lava because it's heading for him. So he's moving. So there we go. And it comes over him. Obviously, he's protected by the time field, and now he's in a mountain. So, and then it gets really hot, and then it gets really cold, and then he can't breathe. And I don't know how long he's in there, but hopefully he's got snacks in his pockets. I hope he has, anyway. Because he hasn't gone prepared, has he? He hasn't taken any water or food or anything, or I don't know. The Royal Society, would look down on this expedition, wouldn't it? Anyway, so there he is. He's heading, bombing into the future at full speed, darkness for centuries. And then suddenly, the mountain just goes away. And then he sees the world is anew. Thousands of centuries had passed. Is that right? Maybe. I don't know. And then we see that building behind him, which is where the Sphinx is going to be. Hang on. Earth has stayed green, and then we see, hang on, just a minute. There we go. Then we see buildings rising up. So it's like the Earth has become a paradise. It's like the Federation sort of thing. LAX is being built, but we see that building later on, which is a cool thing to show. Show it in a painting, in a matte painting. But we're actually going to see the actual building. I say bring back the Schneider Cup. Supermarine S6B was the last aircraft to win the trophy. I've never heard of that. Is it a speed thing? Is it? I don't know. I don't know because I'm not into that sort of stuff because I'm an idiot. I bet my mate is. I've got a mate who's all into all that sort of things. If I mentioned the Schneider Cup to him, he'd probably say, yeah, I know what that is. Anyway, so the Earth's become a paradise. We seem to be at one with nature now, and they've controlled the weather and everything. It's all cool, but then it all kind of decays again. See, we get flashing lights, so obviously something's going wrong. Oh, stop it. And then it all decays again. So obviously everything wasn't right, was it? Because we learn later on that humankind splits into two because of the poisons in the air, but I don't know. So he stops, but a bit too fast, and he makes his, there we go, in the year, on October 12th, 802,701, about tea time. Yes, release the Schneider Cup. Yeah, I got that reference. Supermarine S6B became a Spitfire. Oh, all right, okay. I know. So I do know that Supermarine did Spitfires, yeah. And cool. Everybody always prefers the Spitfire because it's a cool name, isn't it? But I think the Hurricane was the workhorse fighter, wasn't it, during the Second World War for the British? But anyway, right. So he's in the year 802,701. It's a good job he's got enough digits, isn't it, on his display. But anyway, by the way, I think this were all stop motion as well, and like superimposed, like locked off, and all the blinking lights were like stop motion, and the changing numbers. Oh, pardon me. Right, so. Oh, but it's stopped too fast, so it starts spinning round for some reason, and dumps him out of the chair. So he ends up there, goes rolling across the ground. By the way, originally they were wanting like an older actor, something like David Niven or James Mason, to play the time traveller, to play George. But they went with Rod Taylor because he was younger and they wanted to be a bit more athletic, and so he could have a fight in it, basically. And when we get to the fighting in it, when we see the Morlocks and stuff, it's very Star Trek-y. I must admit, it does remind me of Star Trek. I wonder if this inspired, some of the fight scenes in Star Trek, particularly in the cage. It just reminds me of it. But we'll get to that. Oh, right, yes. And for some reason, right, he rolls to a stop, and then just some rain just falls on just him, nowhere else. Here it comes. There we go. Will just rain on you just for a second, and then not anymore. Maybe it's the time field that was just like a funnel, or whatever what they call it. I can't remember the name, but a cylinder. That's the word. A cylinder shape above him. Anyway, someone like William Hartnell. Yes, they were already traveling through time. Well, no, it wasn't. Not in 1960. 1963, maybe. Anyway, so here he is. So we've arrived at the Sphinx. As I said, it just reminds me, the shape of it just reminds me of those that were on that building. I know it's obviously not, because this was built thousands of years after. But anyway. And by the way, the Earth has been like this now for thousands of years, for longer than our recorded history's been going on. The Earth has been like this paradise, although with a slightly dark side, but it's essentially a paradise for hundreds of thousands of years, hasn't it? But now somebody from the late 19th century has arrived to ruin it all in the name of science and freedom. Anyway, so he puts his he writes the time machine, and I suppose he had to be careful because apparently these here were really delicate. So maybe maybe this is a mock-up. I don't know, but the actual thing with all the moving parts and stuff, pardon me, were really delicate, particularly the brass bars. And if you pulled on them, they were easily breakable and didn't get broken. But anyway. Right, so can't get in there. So it goes and has a look round. There we see the building that we saw earlier that's now ruined. A matte painting. I don't know who did the matte paintings. Sci-Fi Quest says Earth was a paradise when then humans came along. Yes, that's true. That is true. That is true. I saw a thing today, actually, a little cartoon, comic strip thing. I think it was on Facebook, where it showed some animals, and it said like 1,000,000 years in the future, and the two animals grazing, and one says, "Do you remember humans?" And the other animal says, "No," and then it shows them carrying on grazing. That's our legacy. Anyway, right. So he's gonna go exploring now. There's the Sphinx, looking very grumpy. I don't know what that's based on. I don't know. Did the Morlocks build this, or were that there already earlier? I don't know. As I said, like hundreds of thousands of years have passed. We've only got, 6,000 years of recorded history. So lots of things could have happened. There's a billion stories, isn't there, in 800,000 years? But anyway. Right, so good looking around. We see some ruins. There's a pillar there that's kind of reminiscent of in Lord of the Rings, where they're going through Mordor and they're seeing the ruins of what used to be part of Gondor and that. Just remind me of that. Anyway, lots of flowering plants and fruit trees. Earth has become a paradise, like a Garden of Eden. There we go. It's just growing, more bountiful than ever. No bounty bars, though, I can imagine. I don't get fed up of it, just eating fruit all the time. I want a kebab. Anyway. So he's trudging away. And there we go, he finds this building with more sphinxes. I say, what civilization, did these sphinxes here? I want to know the backstory. There's a pyramid there. Just noticed that. Never noticed that before, but it's there. So sphinxes and pyramids, obviously obvious references there, but this big dome building. Is it? I don't know. So anyway, it goes in. There's nobody about, but there's lots of fruit about and plates and stuff like that. There's nobody about. Everything's echoing. So he goes back outside and he hears the sounds of people playing and laughing and gambolling. Not gambling, gambolling. And all that jazz. So here he is, he finds them. These are the Eloy, and they're all, for some reason, they're all the same age. We'll get to it, never mind. But there we go. So they can sit there and just eat fruit that grows around and just have fun and all that jazz and just do sod all, which is a bit like my life. Then hears a scream and Yvette Mimieux's stuck in the river. She's fallen in, but they don't give a toss. Look, they're just watching her drowning. Look, they just don't care. So he says, "What you doing? Save her." So anyway, he jumps in and there she's going. But he jumps in and gets her out. There she is. Gets her to the bank, puts his coat over her. And then she just gets up and walks off. Because they're all kind of a bit, it's not their fault. It's just They've been like this, humans, as I said, for hundreds of thousands of years. Get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape. Cool film. I imagine we'll be doing that one day. One of my favourite films. Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape. Great. Oh, I love that film. When you first see the apes, the gorillas on horseback, we all knew it were coming, but it's still an amazing part of the film. Anyway, where were we? Yes, they're all, they're not all there, are they? But as I said, they've been like this. Humans have been like this. The Eloi, probably for hundreds of thousands of years, if at the most for thousands of years. It's all they've known. So anyway, they just all get up and sod off, as though some dinner bell's gone, but we don't hear anything. They just go. And so he sits there. And there's obviously a passage of time. She's changed the clothes, dried his jacket. Brings it back out to him. And she's asking, why did he save her? I said, because you were going to drown, All the others, were just sat there and didn't help you. And she says, well, why should they? And all that. So he doesn't understand why they are the way they are. But they haven't got any curiosity at all. They just live as they live. They can't read or write. But they know certain things. They know what a book is. They know what a government is. But we'll get to that. There he's spelling out her name, Weena. And then he spells out Eloi. And he punctuates it there. And she punctuates it too. Because it's adorable. Because they're falling in love. Bit of a cradle snatcher. As I said, she's only 18. But anyway. Right, the sun's going down. A bit of stock footage of the sun. And she says, we've got to go inside. It's dangerous. They come at night mostly. So they go inside. Still quite sunny, but never mind. So he says, I'm really quite hungry, and starts eating the fruit. Said, have you had any, roast ham or maybe a bit of beef? No, none of that. So then he starts asking about, where does the fruit come from? And he says, this fruit is amazing. In my time, this would be it'd be what does he say? The talk of the civilized world. But anyway, South Africa says, how does he know it's Eloi and not Eloi? Well, he doesn't. He's just spelling it, I suppose, phonetically to him, I suppose. But that's what it's going to be from now on, isn't it? Because he's got to teach him now. Spoilers. But anyway. So he's asking questions, how do they grow the food? He says, what's their form of government? And one of them says, there is no government and there are no laws. So obviously know those words. He'd asked Weena something, I forgot, but she didn't know that word, and I can't remember what it was. Never mind. But she didn't know a simple word, but they know what a government and a law is. There are none. And there you go. That's why he's asking that. We have no government. And there are no laws. So where do you get your food and clothing? And it says it grows, but then we learn later that the Morlocks provide them with their food and clothes. So at some point, just Morlocks come shuffling in with a bale of clothes and just leaves them and goes and there's Morlocks washing up after all these Eloi. Who's the real slaves? That's what I want to know. Anyway, right, so he asks, do you have books? There we go. And then each of us know what books are. Well, they've seen them, haven't they? They can't bloody read them, can they? Yes, we have books. So Guzman shows him these books. This is a scene that's amazing. I don't know how they do this. I don't know. I'm sure somebody knows. They've made these books. Everything is super dusty. And they've probably got cancer or something, whatever they've made these from. But there we go. That curtain just disintegrates. And he picks up a book. There we go. And that just, it's obviously an insert shot, isn't it? That's probably not Rod Taylor's hand. But as I say, it just crumbles away. How did they do? I don't know. Did they put it in an oven or something? Or I don't. How did they just make it just crumble? There, because it closes the book. There we go. And it just disintegrates. I don't want to know how they did it. And then, see, I've missed that again. And then he gets cross. And we see all these books here on the shelf, and he just hits them. They just turn to dust, as we'll see. Look, he's angry. He wants to punch him, doesn't he? Look, because he's Australian. What did they make him out of? I want to know. I want to know that they made the documentary that making of didn't tell us these things. It hardly told us anything about how the film was made. But anyway, Wingate says that scene had stuck with me forever. They remade it in the Wishbone version. The Wishbone, is that the new version of Time Machine? Which I've only seen once and I didn't like it. Is that what you're on about? I don't know. Anyway, so obviously the books of what's the word? Deteriorated into dust. So he's disgusted. Thousands of years of civilization, man building and rebuilding for what? So you can play and dance and all that stuff. So he goes out in disgust and he says, you're all bloody useless. I'm going, sod you. That's what he says. That's verbatim. So he goes out and we think she's going to follow him. She does, but not just yet. But she goes back in and closes the door, as we see there. So he goes trudging back to his time machine. There he is. But then we see it's gone. Dun, dun, dun. Something or somebody or something has dragged it into the Sphinx's complex thing, as you can see there, leaving a mark in the earth. So it's like, what? Some bugger's stolen my time machine. Should have put some bricks and left it up on bricks. Oh, there we see footprints. So obviously these Morlocks, they're kind of advanced because they provide the Eloi with the clothing and the food and they operate machinery down in the depths. But they don't wear shoes or anything other than loincloths and stuff like that. Most peculiar. But anyway, never mind. So he can't get in. He tries using a big stone, but that doesn't work. So he just goes, and then we see some Morlocks skittering about there in the bushes because it's got dark and they don't like sunlight. Sorry. No, Wishbone is a children's TV show with a dog who does famous books each episode. Oh, right. Okay. Never heard of it. Must be an American thing. Thanks for educating us, Wingrace. By the way, Happy New Year, Wingrace. I wished Sci-Fi Quest Happy New Year earlier on when I were playing Assassin's Creed Mirage. Anyway, so he sees movement in the bushes and he lights one of his matches. And we get to see his first glimpse of the Morlocks. I think they're still scary. I do. I honestly do. Great makeup design. And he lights a match and he holds it up and it makes them run off because they don't like the light. They like the Gremlins in the first Gremlins, which we're doing next week. But then he thinks there's another Morlock here in a pink dress. But it's obviously Weena. She's followed him. So she has got curiosity after all. And then she tells him all about the Morlocks. The Morlocks provide them with their food and clothes. And we learn later that essentially the human race now are cattle for the Morlocks, which is why they're all the same age. Where the young ones, though? There's no old ones. You know, they'll go to the Morlocks when they get to a certain age and get eaten. Spoilers. But where's young? 'Cause obviously, you know, all these young virile men and women running about, they'll end up having kiddies, won't they? Where are they? I don't know. Or are they in cages somewhere in Morlock City being reared like veal calves? I don't know. Anyway, so he builds a fire and they collect wood and stuff and builds a fire. And he's telling him that his house used to be right here and right there's his laboratory and over there his sitting room and all that. So he's pointing that out. And Oh, there we go. Human race reduced to living vegetables. It's a bit harsh, isn't it? But anyway, it's 1960. They're allowed to say things like that. All right, and a Morlock tries to grab her, as we see. There we go. Takes her into the bushes, so he goes in, drags her out again. The Morlock runs off. So that were close. And she just sits down. She's not the best actress in the world, by the way, because like I say, she was very young, and apparently they reshot some of her earlier scenes because I think it was her first gig, and she wasn't very good apparently at first. And they went back as she got better as she went on during the shoot. Her acting got better, so they went back and reshot some of her scenes apparently. But anyway, then she's never seen fire. She sticks her hand in it, but she soon gets used to it, as we see later on. But she's never seen it before. And then he apologizes because he realised that they're savages, basically. You know, if they'd been to Bali. Apparently Bali's a paradise. It's a big holiday destination now, isn't it? But obviously in 1960, it was savages that lived there. I don't know. But there is saying, you know, the spirit of self-sacrifice. That's what, you know, separates man from animals, blah, blah, blah. But anyway. So they're falling in love. There we go. So they're going to have a cuddle, etc. And he wants to kindle that spark. He wants man to start fighting again. That's what he wants, because he's from Victorian Britain at the height of the British Empire. He wants to rule the world again. Anyway, so she's showing him stuff, and there we go. Panel efforts to open the panel were fruitless, so they're going exploring, and he finds these. They call them wells in the film. I think there's supposed to be some sort of, you know, ventilation system, I think, for where the Morlocks are underground. I think there's some sort of air ventilation thing. And you can hear the thrumming of machinery deep down in the bowels of the earth. So he's going to go down and have a look. And let's say he asks her, have you ever seen the machine? She said, no, only heard of them. And then soon she talks about the rings. But, you know, oh, there we go. The rings told her about, you know, what was down there. So she's going to show him, and there we go. So here she brings him in to where the rings are. More Egyptian, iconography. And there we go. This thing here on the right hand side. I think maybe that as well. I'm not sure. It's from Forbidden Planet. So here we go. I like this scene, and again, it's kind of Star Trekky. It's cool. This isn't in the books, apparently. Book, should I say? This one made for the film, and it's a cool, interesting idea. I don't know how they came up with it. I would never have thought of this as like information storage device. But what if you're rubbish at flicking? And I don't know, but never mind. The spin for as long as the need to, don't they? So she shows him how it works. He spins it, then we hear a voice. Now it is the 326th year, the war between the East and the West, blah, blah, blah. He learns that, man's essentially almost destroyed himself and the planet. And that some people decide to go live underground away from the poisoned air, and some people decide to take their chances on the surface. And that's how we learn that the human race split into the Eloi and the Morlocks. That's what he learns from the rings. The descendants of the ants from Phase 4. God, that's an old one, isn't it? It's been a while since I've seen that one. Hey. Anyway, so that's what he does. So that's what he learns from the rings. That's it. It's a cool idea, cool visual as well. And there you go. Some chose to take refuge in the Great Caverns. So that's how we learn of the split. And somebody said there was a news story, wasn't there, recently? Well, the last year or two. I can't remember what it was now, saying that in the future it'd be likely there'd be two sorts of humans. There'd be the worker humans, would be like the Morlocks, and there'd be like the I don't know, elite humans that you know, they'd be the tall willowy ones. Tell you, H.G. Wells, he was a time traveller. The gangs and the coms. Yes, well, it's the East and West, isn't it? It would be nice to find a DVD copy of A Whale for a Killing. See, again, you're talking about stuff I've never heard of. I've never heard of it. Go on, let's look it up then. Hey. A Whale for a Killing. Right. It's an American television film. Right. It's loosely based on a true story by environmentalist Farley Mowat about a whale that is tortured by a fisherman. The incident happened in Newfoundland. Blah, 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 blah. Got 2 Emmy nominations. Okay, what's that got to do with the time machine? Anyway, okay. Right, so there goes. Learn how the world of the Eloi and the Morlocks began. There we go. Morlocks became the masters and the Eloi their servants. Well, no, just their cattle. Because essentially the Morlocks are looking after them, aren't they? You know, they're feeding them and clothing them. They're doing everything for them, essentially. They're just playing. They think everything's cool, like cows in the field, sort of thing. Like cattle. But so he's going to go and have a look. He's going to climb down one of these holes and have a look. By the way, I don't know where this was filmed. I presume it's somewhere in California. It's some of the backgrounds. We see some like hills and stuff in the background that look very, you know, California-y. So I'm presuming this is somewhere in California, but I don't know. Sorry, I was just thinking of old movies. Oh, right, okay. I thought there was, you know, some reference that had reminded you of that. Anyway, right. So he's going to climb down, and so he said, "You won't come back," and he goes, "I'll be back," just like that. That's how he said it. But then as he starts going down, there we go. The sirens start, like we heard earlier on, exactly the same. And then all the Eloi just, you know, it's like a Pavlovian response. They just set off towards the Sphinx as though they're hypnotized. So he climbs back out, goes running after her, and he loses her. He can't find what's the face? Wiener. All the other Eloi are heading out. It's very Children of the Corn, Village of the Damned sort of thing, isn't it? They're all blonde. But anyway, Aryan almost, but never mind. So they're all heading for the Sphinx. He's asking what's happening, but they're totally ignoring him. As I said, they're kind of hypnotized. And then he sees Wiener just at the last second. There she is, luckily just wearing something that stands out from the rest of the crowd. And he just sees her just at the wrong time. She's gone in. He's lost Wiener. She's gone into the Sphinx. So the siren stops. And he says they all turn round and walk off. And says, "Stop, what's going to happen to them?" And we learn that they're never seen again once they go into the Sphinx. And there we go. Says, "What's wrong?" Nothing is wrong. It is all clear. Remember earlier on, we've been told to wait for the all clear. So he says, "No, that's from another time. That's past." But they don't understand. Because as I said, they've lived this way for thousands of years, haven't they? As I said, probably longer than our human history's been going on. But never mind. But he's going to change it in a week, isn't he? So he's asking, you know, how will they come back? He said, no, they never come back in some weird shot that's really grainy, as though it's from a wider shot. And they couldn't find an alternative close-up of him. So they just cropped it and blew it up. And it looks, like I said, really weird grainy shot of his face. Right, so he says, right, well, sod you lot then. I'm going to go and find her. So he's going to go climb down this well. So down he goes. Here he goes. And obviously they've got curious because they're coming looking now. They're not going to follow him yet, but they do start looking. So he's going to make himself a torch to burn. I'd never do that. I wouldn't have the first idea. Traffic West says, never watched Village of the Damned. Finally, something I've seen that other people haven't. Village of the Damned. The original, also from 1960, but in black and white, is amazing. One of my favourite films. I'm not a big fan of the John Carpenter version. But Children of the Damned, I didn't know there were two. I know there were one. I've seen one Children of the Damned. But that's not bad. But it's slightly different to Village of the Damned. But it's kind of a worthy sequel, but it's different enough. And it's not bad. I didn't know there were more than one. But anyway, cool films. Cool films. As I said, I'm not a fan of the John Carpenter version, though. Right, so he makes himself a torch. We don't light it yet. Here we are. He's inside the cavern with a painted backdrop, which we see a little bit too closely. I don't know if it was supposed to be blurred out when we see it in a minute. But let's see if it shows. There we go. He gets to this, jumps over to this bit here. Right, there we go. We get a close up on him, and when he gets up. And I was thinking, should that have been a bit more blurred? Should they had I don't know how cameras work. a narrower focus on him, so the background's more blurred, because it does look a bit, a bit painty, doesn't it? But whatever, it's fine. So here's all the Morlocks machines. Don't know what it's doing. Don't know what they're doing. What are they using these machines for? I don't know. But they're obviously using them for something. Sci-Fi Quest says the John Carpenter one, was that the one with Superman? Yes, Christopher Reeve before his accident, and Kirstie Alley. Kirstie Alley's in it as well, and I forgot her name. Her that were in The Walking Dead. I can never remember her name, but she's super hot. She was in Silent Hill as well. I can never remember her name. She's in it as well, anyway, and other people. But I'm not a fan of that one. I don't like it. Like, I'm not a fan of Toby Hooper's Invaders from Mars. I'm not a fan of that either. But anyway. Right, so now he sees what happens to the people. There we go. The Morlocks eat them. Just strip them down to the bone, to the skeletons. Just there. I don't know. It doesn't really explain it. But they use plates, as we see in a minute. If you're going to show it. Oh, it's gone past it. There we go. So they use plates and stuff, very rudimentary plates, but they leave all the bones behind. They don't like the bones, but they just leave them there. They don't tidy up after themselves. They provide the Eloy with lovely fruit and lovely clean, crockery and stuff like that. But they live like animals deep underground. So as I said, who's the real slaves here? That's what I want to know. But anyway, so he's disgusted. They're cannibals, sort of. They're kind of another species, really, aren't they? Near enough. But then, as we don't notice, there's a Morlock there, but we don't see it until it moves. Look, dun, dun, dun. So they're following him round now. The Morlocks. We see him sneaking about in the background as he's looking for Weena and her chums. I see the Morlocks with their glowing eyes. Glowing eyes always creep me out. They even seem to blink. There's that sometimes. I think they just turn them on and off. It gives the impression that they blink. But anyway. Right, so what's he doing? Right, so he has a whip going, and he sees them. They're bringing in their latest lot of cattle. So he decides he's going to save them. He grabs Weena, and then a Morlock tries to whip him. He goes, first proper good look at a Morlock. So, cool. I think they're terrifying. I do. Still think they are. Makes me think of The Descent and The Cave. Not quite. But yeah, I suppose similar. But I can't watch films like that. I've seen The Descent and The Cave. The Cave's not too bad. The Descent, films like that, when they're in cramped spaces, I'm super claustrophobic and I can't cope with it when they're crawling through, tunnels, and does it freaks me out. Freaks me out. But anyway. Hey, there we go. Swan dive. So he fights him, but then all the other Morlocks start whipping him. He grabs the Morlock's whip and he's whipping them, and they're whipping him back. But he's outnumbered, so he's forced back. Behave yourself, you. Get that. Sorry, the cat scratching at the furniture. Yes, it's like half Mugato and half Salt Vampire. It is, isn't it? It is. As I said, I bet he was inspired watching this film with Gene Roddenberry. I bet he was inspired. But anyway, see the watching them of the Morlocks, and then he remembers he's got his little thingy container of matches. So there we go. So he gets one out and gets first real look at him. There we go. Gets a match, strikes a match, and like that. So he goes out and he wants to get his torch that had been knocked out of his hand. He needs to get the torch to light it. So anyway, they're all fighting. Look, knocks the stuff out of his hand. So there you go. So he lights another, and it won't light. I go, burn, you. Trust Neil to be all soggy. That just reminded me. And give me something to burn. It's my last match. And luckily, her clothes are obviously super flammable, as we see, because she tears a bit off and gives it to him and sets it all alight. So he starts fighting them, and a bit basically. They could put that music to this. Didn't he say "Hail to the King, baby"? He should have done, shouldn't he? Give me some sugar. So he's fighting them all, and there's too many of them essentially, and the Eloy are doing sod all because they're being useless. No harpoons in this movie. No, they'd say if he had a harpoon, he'd have sorted these Morlocks out in no time. Look, they're getting blocked off by a Morlock. I bet they fall or whatever. Stunt Morlock. Anyway, bashing his head. Look, by the way, it's quite violent in places, this film, as we see in a bit. I might have missed it. There is a Morlock that he hits and all blood comes out of his mouth and stuff. There we go. He's got to get his torch back. And he says, Weena, get the torch. But she can't because a Morlock's getting her. Oh, pardon me. And so he saves her. And this is the bit where he whacks this Morlock. Look, he's leathering him, giving him punches to the face. And it's not that one. It must be this next one. This is the bit that reminded me of The Cage. Remember when what's his face? Pike, the Jeffrey Hunter Pike, were being attacked by when the Telosian changed into that beast. I presume it's got a name. I don't know. But I don't know. For some reason, it just reminded me of this bit. There we go. Just reminded me of it. But anyway. Right, he gets the torch back. And I think I've missed it onto the bit that I wanted to see. Right, same. Right, knocks him back. Look, quite gruesome for 1960, I suppose. Proper red claret coming out of his mouth. Right, so there you go. He sets fire to the. This must be flammable. It's probably petrol or something. Time harpoon, says Wingrace. Time poon. Never mind, that's a whole other thing. Is that another idea you've had? Copyright, Wingrace, 2024, time poon. So he sets fire to that, whatever it is. Petrol must be. And it sets fire to everything. There we go. Everything starts burning. So they're escaping. The Morlocks are freaking out. They start climbing out of the wells. Luckily, they get out in time. One of them, by the way, I'd missed it. I think it was this one. He went to save... I can't remember if he went to save Wiener or if he went to save him. Or maybe both of them. I can't remember. But it showed him looking at his hands and then forming a weapon and beating the Morlock. So he's taught humans how to fight again. He is the human form monolith from 2001. Anyway. So, so he tells them to throw all the dead wood, not the TV show, just wood that's dead, down into the wells just to make it all burn, because he wants to commit genocide, basically. But goodness gracious, great balls of fire, yes, indeed. They're pointing. And then we see a model shot of the Morlock city exploding. It's all collapsing, and there we go, down it goes. Are all the Morlocks dead? No, they're not, as it turns out. But I suppose some of them are. There we go. I make sure we're still going. Better make sure. I haven't got a copyright. Oh, hang on. Maybe that's from earlier. Yeah, I think we're all right. It's probably from the trailer. Copyright thing on YouTube. I think we'll be all right. Right, no messages on Rumble and an X. I don't know, because I don't know how that works. But we're live on X. I'm just going to like my own thing. Anyway, that's racist. Is it? What's racist? See, I've said something and I don't know what I've said now, haven't I? Anyway. So, they're all three of the Morlocks now. They've got to fend for themselves. So, the humanity will be gone within a generation, probably. They'll start getting diseases and all sorts of stuff now. They haven't got the Morlocks to look after them. But then she starts asking him, they're falling in love again. He starts asking him about the women of his time and, does he have anybody special? And he says, no, apart from Mrs. Watchit, but she's 62 and all wrinkly. I'm not far off that. And all wrinkly. Oh, not you, him, killing all the people who look different. Essentially, yes. It was the British way back then, wasn't it? As I said, the height of the British Empire. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, she's asking him about the women of his time, and so they're going to have a snog now. And she says, "Am I pretty?" And yes, I would be pretty. Blah blah blah. So they're going to. He's asking about the hair, and he says, "Show me." So they're going to snog. There we go. I wish we could go back to my time. By the way, he thinks he's lost his time machine because it went taken into the Sphinx, and they've just blown it up, haven't they, essentially? But they're all pointing, look, and then we see he gets there. We see his time machine's there. The door's open. He can go and get it. So he goes running in, and he says, "Weena, come with me." And she sets off, but before she can get there, the door closes, and he's trapped inside. Now Morlocks are emerging from the smoke. Look, so he's got to fight them again, and then that one the two die, don't they? They're not the toughest of beasts, but that one's. We see what happens to him in a minute, and he knocks the other one off, and he starts his machine going forward accidentally, and as we see, there's a bit of stop motion Morlock. What's the word? Decomposing. That's the word. A Morlock decomposing, which they did with wax and stuff like that, apparently. So he's watching, and then there we go. And then he realizes, I'm going the wrong way. It's supposed to be going back, not forward. So he starts going back. But it doesn't show the Morlock reconstitute like it should do, shouldn't it? It doesn't show that. But so he goes the other way. So he heads back. He's heading back to his normal time. So he ends up back a week after he left in 1900. January the 5th, 1900. That's when he is now, isn't he? In his garden of... What's he got under these sacks? I have no idea. Is the trees or something that he's growing? I don't know. I'm not a horticulturalist. Or maybe the dead bodies he's planted in his garden. Whatever. Anyway, so he appears in his garden. Because remember, the thing hasn't, it was dragged into the Sphinx, wasn't it? So it's it's in a different place to where it was when he first set off from his lab. Right, so he goes in. And this is where we carry on now, and then we see the clock now is at what's that? Says about 20 past 9. So it's not quite the length of the film. I don't know. Maybe it has. Maybe it has the length of the story is told. I wasn't paying attention to how much time had passed when he started. He's been talking about an hour and 15 minutes or something. Maybe that is the length of his story. I don't know. And all the dead versions of himself he's encountered and replaced. Yes, because he's like the Rick in here from Rick and Morty. Oh dear. Yes, he is. Or is either like the Rick from Rick and Morty, or is the Tesla, or whoever from I forgot the name of the film, The Illusionist, which is a cool film, a Christopher Nolan film I actually like. Sci-Fi Quest says he should be interviewed by 2 people in black for breaching the Temporal Prime Directive. Yes, they should be all over his Victorian ass, shouldn't they? Anyway. Right, so he's just told them, but obviously they don't believe him, obviously, even though, for God's sake, because they're practical men. But they don't believe him still. And then he pulls the flower out. Wiener had given him a flower earlier on, and he pulls it out of his pocket and says to David Philby, was an interest in horticulture, luckily. Match this against any known flower. And he says, I don't think I can, just by looking at it. But then later on, he says, that flower wouldn't have bloomed at this time of year, apart from all the ones that we'd seen earlier. But never mind. Anyway, so they're all going to sod off again. And so off they go. And he says goodbye to David, knowing that he's going to die in 1916 in the First World War. So he says goodbye. Oh, pardon me. And you've been a good friend always, he says to him, quite, tear-jerky way, in like, brotherly love sort of thing. But this is where he tells them that flower would never bloomed at this time of year. So off they go. And then we see George dragging the time machine back into his lab. Remember, dragging it out of the Sphinx again, back to the little area in front of the Sphinx. And then we hear it going, and the house is shaking. He goes running back in, there's David, and he goes running into the lab, and he sees that it's gone. Oh, there is flowers. I've just noticed there is flowers that we saw. So it's a greenhouse as well. So he must have some year-round flowers that he were looking at. Good for you, George, pal. Good for you. I don't have to moan about there being flowers now at this time of year. Maybe you got that other flower. Maybe you should say, maybe you just got this flower from Wiener from your greenhouse. Anyway, never mind. So Mrs. Watchit comes in and she says, what's going on? And this is David explaining that, it was in the Sphinx right there. And he dragged it back here to be outside the Sphinx to where Wiener was waiting for him. That's my Scottish accent, sorry. I'm allowed to do it because I'm a quarter Scottish. So there he goes, dragged it back in. He's gone back to Wiener. And but there we go, he's got to try and rebuild a civilization. And they're saying, what would he take back with him? He wouldn't go empty-handed. So we learned that he's taken 3 books with him. No hemp growing. Maybe so. It were all the rage, wasn't it? Apparently back then. Queen Victoria apparently liked a bit of it, I think. I'm sure I've read that somewhere. Anyway, but he's taken 3 books. And she says, well, what 3 books would you take? He says, well, I don't know, but which 3 would you have taken? So which 3 books would you take? I bet he took the Bible. And the Boy Scout book, I forgot the name of the fellow that wrote it now. Got a B in it. Never mind. But it took the Boy Scout handbook, the Bible, and the Concise English Dictionary, the Oxford, Concise Oxford English Dictionary, so I could teach them how to speak. No, not the Kama Sutra, because they probably know lots of stuff already. But Weena can teach him a thing or two, because he's a stuffy Brit, isn't he, from Victorian times, where she's lived all her life gambling and playing in a paradise. But anyway, so now he's gonna go back now, and he's gonna separate them all into different tribes, and they're all gonna fight each other for dominance. That's what's gonna happen. Anyway, so off he's gone. He's got all the time in the world, and off he goes into the. Princess wants to go out, but he's chucking it down. She won't go. So off he goes back to his department store. And then in 16 years, he's going to go to war and die. But as we saw not as I told you in the documentary, a nice little scene where George comes back to try and save him and skip over the time that he dies. And but he doesn't, so he's going to still die in the First World War. Alice in Wonderland, War of the Worlds, The Art of War. Is that what you'd take? Oh dear. But what's Mrs. Watchit going to do there? She just lived there for the rest of her life, or is she sacked now? Is she fired? Now he's sodded off to the future, Hopefully, he's made provision for her. Hopefully, he's written another letter saying Mrs. Watchit gets such and such money so she can live out the rest of her life in comfortable retirement. I hope so. I imagine so, because he's a decent fella. But anyway, then we cut to a nice, looks like a painting of a house with some nice snowy things. It's a Christmas film set during the Christmas period, and that's it, the end. Cool film. I've got to go let the cat out. So just bear with me. Hang on. 3 minutes after the end, after this ends, all the other time travelers arrive and invite him to their club. But he's gone. He's gone. Just let me go let the cat out. Just bear with me. Just read that. Naughty you, aren't you? Yes, you are. She's gone out. Hang on. Was that Krampus on the roof? Oh, I'm going to have to go back now, aren't I? Let's have a look. Where are we looking? Can't see any Krampus type shape. There, is that Krampus there? Yes, we'll say yes, it is. We will say yes, it is. Anyway, so that's it, the end of the Time Machine, which I think is great, one of my favourite films. It's amazing. It's amazing and cool. From 1960, and it still stands up today, I think. I think it's got a very 50s feel to it. It just feels more like a 50s movie than a 60s movie. It's a good old-fashioned adventure flick, and it doesn't go on too long. Speaking of time movies, did you like Timeline? I haven't seen it since it came out. It does ring a bell. I can't remember. I might have seen it, but I don't know. If I can't remember it, I probably didn't like it very much. So I'm going to have to look that up now. Timeline, just to remind myself of it. Timeline movie. Oh, no, it's a newer one, isn't it? Yes, no, I haven't seen it. Gerard Butler. No, I've not seen it. No. Yes, I remember it coming out, but I remember not being particularly interested in wanting to watch it, to be completely honest. But, yeah. I was thinking of an older film. What was I thinking of? Can't remember. I was thinking of an older film. I think I had Mark Hamill in it, so that's it might not have even had anything to do with time. Oh, the one with Carrie Fisher. So let me check. Let's see. I think I was thinking of. Come on, show it. Where is it? Way back in the 80s, I think that it came out. Not long after the Time Guardian. That's what I'm thinking of. That's what I'm thinking of. The Time Guardian. Time Cop came. No, Time Cop came after him. No, Jean-Claude Van Damme. No Time Tracks Agents. Another thing I've not seen, but I've heard of. Anyway, right. So there we go. That's it for the Time Machine. That's it. A cool adaptation. Better than the newer one with Jeremy Irons that were in it, and Guy Pearce, wasn't it? No, not Guardian of Forever. Wingrave. Time Guardian with Carrie Fisher. What was I saying? Oh, right, yes. I didn't like the newer version with Guy Pearce and Jeremy Irons, and because it were rubbish. But it was like a novelty film because it was directed, wasn't it, by Simon Wells. Sorry, Simon West. Simon West did Tomb Raider. Simon Wells, who was H.G. Wells' his grandson, a great grandson, or something like that. But that were a bit of a novelty one, wasn't it? Sci-Fi says, great stream. What's next? Well, next on Friday, this week's appointment with Fear is The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I haven't got that yet. I've ordered the Blu-ray for it. I'm hoping it arrives in time. I've got the DVD, but I don't know where I've put it. It's either behind all my other stuff or it's in a box upstairs. It's probably in a box upstairs. I can't be bothered looking for it. So that's what's on Friday. And next Monday is Gremlins. So that's what's coming up. Anyway, the new one had the cool moon scene. That's about it. Oh yes, the moon had been split or something, hadn't it? Which looked cool, yeah. But and it had that. I've got a name now. Mumba, somebody Mumba. I forgot her name. She was big for a while, wasn't she? Popular. Don't mean big. I mean she was popular for a while, and then sort of disappeared. But I forgot her name. But yeah, so there we go. That's it. We've done. So we'll leave it there. So, thanks, Sci-Fi Question. Thanks, Wingrace. No Joshua Kanapke, no Josh Temple. Off having fun with their families on New Year's Day. But us, sad, lonely men, are looking at sci-fi films. But thanks for keeping me company. Have you done Jason X? Yes, I've done Jason X in Friday Night Appointment with Fear quite a while ago. It's there in the playlist. I said, check my playlists. It's all in there. Yes, we did Jason X. Yes, we have. Yeah, there we go. Yes, there we go. We've also done Jason Takes Manhattan as well. But yes, we've done Jason X. Yes, it's in there. It says I'll look for it. Cool. Get a few more views. I'm still not monetized. I can't get to that 3,000 watch hours per 365 days. It's going up slowly, but really slowly. I was like that 2,600 and something. I'll never get monetized. I never will. Anyway, right. Not that I'm not bothered. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway, right. We'll leave it there. As I said, what's coming up Friday? Appointment with Fear is I've forgotten already. Exorcism of Emily Rose. Next Monday is Gremlins, and I don't know what's happening after that. Right. So, Sci-Fi Quest says, see you next time, pal. Take care. Yes, thank you very much. See you next time. Hopefully. Oh, sorry, I'm itching. I must have flea. So I'll see you then. I still haven't done my Monarch Legacy of Monsters review. I'm gonna have to get round to it. Once you get monetized, they'll probably start striking you all the time. Yes, probably. Yeah, that's why I'm not that bothered. Right, I'm going. So thanks for watching, and wherever you are, look after each other. Have a happy new year, and until next time, I'll see thee.